Back, everybody, to the Roll the Bones podcast. The guest I have tonight, I'm honored to have him here, Gregory Scarpa Jr. The last name Scarpa carries a lot of weight, especially when it comes to organized crime and the history of the mob. Thanks for being here, Greg. It's an honor to have you.
My pleasure.
So, first and foremost, there's a lot of Hollywood glorifies, sensationalizes a lot of this life. We want to try to hopefully steer some kids away from it because I know they seem to be doubling down in the last, couple years or so. You're seeing a lot of gang violence and it's just increased exponentially.
Well, what I do want to say is, we're going to get into a little conversation here, but what I want to say is what I always say on the interviews is I'm trying to keep the kids away from this kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Grow and thinking that this is such a beautiful thing because it's not. It's something that you're going to end up in prison forever, or
mm-hmm.
you're going to get killed. That's the bottom line. So I try to let them listen that it's not a good thing. You might hear my name and he's this, he's that, but it's not good. Look what I did. I did 32 years in
mm-hmm.
prison. I miss my kids growing up. You know what I'm saying? It's not a good thing. But it's something that I was born into,
mm-hmm.
and I went. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it. What can I say? It's a luxurious thing. Like as far as living good, stuff like that with the cars and the women, and you know what I mean? Not working. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I would. I dabbled in some stuff when I was younger, and it's a regret of mine today. But it could have been a lot worse.
Right.
And like when you were growing up, did you have any idea like your father was in the mob?
Yeah, well, see, we used to live in Staten Island. I was born in Brooklyn, around the third grade. I don't know how old you would be, maybe 8 years old, something like that in the third
mm-hmm.
grade. I'm not sure, but we moved to Staten Island. Okay, and in Staten Island, they had this newspaper. It was called the Staten Island Advance. It was like a rag paper.
Yeah.
And it would have everything in there. And then all of a sudden, they were putting every week about the mob.
Yeah.
Something like that. Did like with the Daily News.
Mm-hmm.
This was the Staten Island Advance, and they started talking about my father a lot. He was a lieutenant, Colombo family, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So. I got out, got in school, my sister got a little upset about it because people were saying that, your father's in the mafia.
Yeah.
So, she came to me and I told her, Dad, don't worry about it. I said, a young boy, I told her, I said, Dad, that's a good thing. Don't worry about it. Nobody's going to bother him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, yeah. But like I said, not such a good thing in the long run. You know what I mean? You know where you're going to end up,
So, like, over the years, your father had a very serious reputation, within the family. How much of his reputation has been, like, sensationalized, or was he really, like, they spin him like he was the boogeyman, like, but how much of that was, like, what's, like, reality versus, like, how Hollywood sensationalizes it through many avenues, like documentaries, books, whatever.
Right. Well, without sensationalizing it,
yeah,
the guy was a serious guy.
Yeah.
Serious. Okay. And he had a lot of swagger. When he walked into a room, people looked.
mm-hmm.
They knew that they can't fool around with this guy. And I don't care who you are. If you were the captain of this family or the boss of it, when he walked in, they listened.
Yeah.
He was that tough. He was that tough. And he proved it. I mean, just going forward, people didn't even want to go to the avenue where we hung out because they weren't sure with this man that they were going to even leave the club.
There was a guy I talked to. I don't want to name him. He had reached out to one of my things. He told me that he had an encounter with your father from a distance, and he said that it was from the Lucchese family, and he was walking down, but when he saw your father coming down the sidewalk across the street, like that's how scared he was.
Yes, yes, that's that's what happened. He was that way. I mean, he would stand in front of the club. And,
Yep.
But he go in there and he played and stuff like that. But he's also he could be the nicest guy in the world too.
Right.
It's just that's how he appeared that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if you knew him and you talked to him, and he'll play cards with you, and with the family he'll play board games, he'll laugh. I mean, I used to kid around with him all the time. You know what I'm saying? So he was both ways. When he had to be serious, he was serious. You know what I'm saying? But I used to play around with him and tease him, and but I know I'm his son. But yeah, both ways he was. I mean, he just be serious when he had to, and when he wasn't, we had a lot of laughs, all of us.
We're now there were. How did you end up going from getting steered into the life?
Yeah, well, how I got into the life was growing up with him and stuff like that. And, I would see him bring over to our house in Staten Island. He'd bring like 6 guys in the house.
Yep.
With duffel bag. Okay, they would go do a score. They were actually called the roof choppers. Okay, they didn't know who, but they called the gang on in the newspapers roof choppers.
Yep.
Anyway, with these duffel bags, I'm talking about they would empty them. They're gold all over the place, diamonds, roof, everything.
Wow.
Okay, and I would see that, but I was too young to really make anything of it. Mm-hmm. Although my father told me, he says, Greg, he says, anybody asks you what your daddy does for a living, he says, you tell him I'm a jeweler. So he was already now not lying to me, but he's telling me, like, because of the gold and this and that, he's the jeweler, So with that was one thing, and the guys would fool around with me. One time, I was in the corner playing with some diamonds, like marbles.
Wow.
And they were looking for it. They didn't know I was in the corner with it.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden, this Johnny Sapp guy, a real good friend, he spots me over. He goes, "Here it is over here." And he calls my mother. He says, "Connie," he's yelling to my mother, "your son's going to be bad." My mother said, "No, he's not going to be a doctor or So with that, that was one of the things that I was seeing.
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I started getting into a little trouble myself. A lot of fights, and my father would get involved, and he says, "Greg, with all these fights, I could count on my hand how many fights I had my whole life. You're having more fights than, And then I said, Dad, what do you want from me? They say this, they say that, And with that, he said, I'm going to skip a little bit up to like around 16 years old. Well, I was boxing at the time.
Yeah. And
he started coming around watching me box and train. And he would bring these couple of guys with him as like bodyguards, you know what I mean? And they weren't actually bodyguards, because let me tell you something, that guy, he'll break you in half. In his younger days, my father, he was a tough guy. And with that, they come in with their long overcoats, their fedora hat. I said, wow, this is for real, So anyway, getting in trouble, then I started doing other things. Like, one time I took his car. I didn't even have the license. I took his car. We ended up, me and a friend of mine, we went into this lounge, and we ended up stealing all the liquor bottles and all this kind. We put it in his trunk. I went to sleep.
Yep.
And the detectives came to the house.
Oh no.
And they says, listen, they called my father out there. They said, listen, we got your plate number. and all this stuff. This place was broke. My father said, "Hey, get the fuck out of here," you know.
Yeah.
That curses.
Oh yeah, go yeah. Go for it.
Father says, "Get the fuck out of here." He tells the cop, you know. So he says, "What do you?" He said, "Greg," he said, "We got your plate." He said, "No, no, you didn't get this plate." No, no. Anyway, what happens is they leave.
Mm-hmm.
My father now driving into Brooklyn, and he hears jingling in the trunk.
Oh no.
Yeah, he opens the trunk and it's full of bottles of liquor and all this kind of stuff. He made a U-turn. He came home. He says, "Greg, you just don't want to stop. You know."
Yeah.
I think what I'm going to do, Greg. You know, I know you like to hang out here with your friends and stuff like that, but I'm going to start taking you into Brooklyn with me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Even the weekends, Dad." I said, "I like to, you know." He says, "Yeah. Well, the weekend was Saturday. You can stay out here in Staten Island, but during the week you can come into Brooklyn with me." Long story short, going into Brooklyn with him, that, you know, what I saw over there, all these guys with Cadillacs, Lincolns, beautiful cars, beautiful women, everybody laughing, playing cards and stuff like that. So now, you know, wow, this is looking really fun.
I can imagine.
And that's more or less what, you know, now he ended up, I was on my birthday. He ended up saying, "Greg," he says, "I'm going to take you over to 86th Street. I want you to meet my boss."
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I was young at the time, and I was still my father, you know. So we got in the car. I says, "Hey, Dad, I thought you were the boss." He says, "No, no, no, Greg, I'm not the boss." He says, "You know, we all have bosses.
Mm-hmm.
I might be a boss over here." He said, "But we all answer to a boss. We all got bosses." As we go over there to 86th Street, and who I meet is Joe Colombo.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, really. So I meet Joe Colombo, and he was in a real estate place. That was his front. He would be in the office over there.
Mm-hmm.
We went in, and he introduced me, and Joe says to me, "You know, Greg, I want you to know," he says, I saw a couple of your fights, you know, and you're good." He says, "You're good." He says, "But you took a lot of shots on the head." He says, and, "I just want you to know, maybe your father could tell you too, there's a lot of easier ways of making money."
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, all right, Joe, you know." So with that, he said, "I hear it's your birthday." I says, yeah. So anyway, he gives me $500.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I said, "Oh, thanks, Joe." And as soon as my father saw that, he said, No, Greg, give it back. So I go to give it back. Joe says, No, you put it in your pocket. Now I'm stuck with my father telling me that. Joe Colombo saying, "Put it in your pocket." You know what I'm saying? And Joe goes to my father. He said, "Hey, who's the boss?" So he said, "Well, since you put it that way," he said, "Greg, put it in your pocket." You know. So anyway, that's what actually started it all. And next thing you know, like I was 17. I had a Corvette. My father bought me this Corvette. 18. All these guys with these big cars. I traded the Corvette in and got a nice Cadillac. You know what I'm saying? And that's what started the life. And, you know, then we, little by little, he didn't put me into anything really big like guys were doing.
Yeah.
But like the hijacking of trucks at the time was big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we were doing, not that I was, but they were getting the trucks and bringing them to a warehouse and stuff. And I would go to the warehouse and they would give me $500,000 to help unload the trucks.
Right.
Up the vans and stuff. So I started to make money there. And then my father included me in his numbers racket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And before you know it, I was still a teenager. I'm making $4,000 or $5,000 a week. Back in the 60s, at the end of the 60s. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy money.
Yeah, crazy money. And so I was living good. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Had girls all over the place. You know, I mean, you know. So that's how I got into it.
Was Did your father have? I just because I just watched this TV series the other day, The Offer. Did your father have any involvement when Joe Colombo was pressing the Paramount over the making of The Godfather?
No, my father had nothing to do with that. Well, well, naturally, everybody had to do with it because everybody's going to back Joe Colombo.
Right.
Yeah, but we had that Italian Civil Rights League there.
Mm-hmm.
I know you heard about that.
Yep.
And that was because Joe Colombo's son got pinched by the FBI. And Joe Colombo felt that he got framed. So, but that all combined together with the Godfather thing. He wanted to prove a point and make it that they can't use. I think it was the word mafia, was it?
Yeah. It was that, and from what I've read, I think a lot of it started with Sinatra, and then somehow Joe got involved, and that was where they negotiated removing the word mafia from it, and changing who I think it was the Tony Fontana or whoever the singer was in the thing was. It wasn't supposed to be Sinatra. That there was is what I guess allegedly happened. I know the mafia part's 100%, but
I'm not too familiar with that either. That's something that I was young and really didn't pay much mind.
Yep. So when did I know it's been widely talked about. When did your father get introduced to Linda Vecchia? Because he was a top echelon informant for a long time. How did that begin for him?
With Lynn or the
well, at least getting involved with the government.
Well, what happened over there is that he got into a problem way back in the early '60s, and he worked out a deal with this FBI agent Villano, what his name was, and that agent told him that you listen, you help us out with things, we'll help you out, but they worked as like a team.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I was young at the time, had no idea. No idea about the Vecchio either. I'll get to that.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, was working with this Villano. And then this Villano, I think he got sick or something like that. They had well, he got sick after my father had problems with him, something about money. My father wanted more money or something like that. And with that, my father cut ties with him. He said, I'm done with this bullshit, okay? And with that, it was a few years now that he wasn't involved as far as what he told me.
Yeah.
Then in 70, I think around 75, it was around that time, the Vecchio had went to his house, and he wanted to talk to my father, try to recruit him, okay? And, when he pulled up, my father says, to him, who the fuck are you? And he told me, he says, listen, I know you work with and Villano, this, that, and everything. He says, I'm going to give you my card. He says, if you ever feel like doing something with us,
yeah,
we'll work with each other, So my father actually told him, he said, listen, if I was to do anything, he said, it wouldn't be with more than one agent. Be just with you. He said, oh, that would be no problem. So he said, well, give me your card. Supposedly, later on down the road, he got back in touch with this Vecchio.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever end up crossing paths with Linda Vecchio while your father was working with him, or?
Well, it's a funny thing with that, which I learned later when I saw pictures of this Vecchio. What happened? Me and a couple of friends, I used to go into this store. They were an Arab store, and we used to go in there, and we used to take all the dog. We all had dogs, and we used to take all the dog food and stuff. We used to tell them, "Listen, don't worry, you're protected over here. Nobody can bother you," and all that stuff. So, but my father didn't like that. and he had told me, he says, Greg, you got to stop that, this, that, and everything. I said, we got dogs over here to feed. Forget about it. So with that, but he was serious, my father. He wanted us to stop. This was like me and my crew. We had two different, I had a crew and my father had a crew.
Yeah.
And with that, one day I come walking into the club, and there's this guy sitting there at the chair there. My father behind the desk, and this guy at the chair next to, actually with the chair I sit in.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat over here, and he looks at me, the guy, and he shows me his badge. He says, FBI. He says, Greg, I really want to ask for you. I says, yeah, what is it? So he says, listen, we got word about, and my father knew what was going on. He got this guy, they worked together. We're going to make my son stop this. I want him to stop. He's going to stop. So the guy said, listen, we're going to let this go, okay? Just make sure it ends. So I says, you got that. I said, that all you want? He says, yeah. I says, good. And I left. So that was the only time I ever saw that guy. And wow. I only know that by seeing pictures later on, saying, wow, that's that fucking prick that was sitting there that day. Set me up like,
Oh, man.
Yeah. Really crazy. So that was the only time.
When you were coming up through the mob, you had no idea. I think, that your father was working with the government, did you?
No, not. Listen, that was the biggest shock, not only to me, but to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was a shock. There's the guy was, and if there was any kind of doubts, maybe that he never gets arrested or anything like that, they used to go and give him a contract to go kill this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Go kill. If he was working with the government, okay, you're not going to go be killing all these people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that assured everybody that no, he's not no fucking rat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because there was a lot of gray areas that I look at what they did, the government wise, was they kind of weaponized him to handle their own agendas. Because back then the contempt for the mafia was they couldn't get anybody. There was no major indictments, and now you have a guy that you can go to that's willing to tie up certain things for you. It just kind of shows certain recklessness. Now, I'm not smashing the government, but there's a lot of things that should be looked at and considered. And I know recently, I think it was in the last couple of years, Lynn got brought up before Congress. They're asking well, how was this possible? Because I think a lot of people, what it does is if you have a guy that's out there, harming people and doing these things, they kind of become a bad witness. So then you have a lot of cases that fall apart. And right. Guys have been sitting behind bars for a long time. So right. It's just, I don't know, it's complicated. Though they did the Mississippi burning case, was interesting.
That was real big for him.
Yeah.
Solve that situation. But let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the information that my father gave them, okay? What I read, there's no way possible, okay? And then I found out, what happened here was the government, what they were doing was, because there was a lot of information my father wasn't privy to.
Right.
And, there's no way that he knew this and knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened here was the deal that was made with the Vecchio and my father was that they had illegal wiretaps out there. Okay? Now they earned unbelievable information on the illegal wiretaps.
Wow.
Okay, now listen to this. Now, because they made my father a top echelon informant, okay, once they got enough information that they say, wow, we got a lot here from the illegal bug, okay? Not from my father, the illegal bug, okay? All right, so what they would do then is go to the judge. I think I forgot the title 18. I forgot the number. Would they go to the judge and say, listen, we have a top echelon informant. And this deal was made with my father and them. So my father got paid, and sure, go ahead, do that. And go to the judge and tell the judge that we have a top echelon informant. They gave us this information, this, and this. But he didn't. They got it on the illegal bug.
Wow.
You understand? Yeah. So now the judge goes and says, okay, you want to continue to, not continue, do you want to, a wiretap? Mm-hmm. Yes, that's why we're here. You know what I'm saying? And the judge automatically, because they got all this information, okay, from this top echelon informant, the judge said, yeah, go ahead. And now they got the legal bug to go on top of that, and there's the indictments. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, man. It just shows, the rabbit hole when it comes to the government goes deep.
They'll do anything to win.
It's the biggest gangster racket there is. We're seeing more and more of that as time goes on, and more leaks are coming out, and with Cash Patel's putting a lot of stuff out. There's a case with you that I'm really interested in, is Ramzi Youssef. Like, you tipped them off about the bombs.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, like, he was one of the orchestrators of the 93 World Trade Center attack.
93, and also the 2001.
Yep.
He was the mastermind. I can tell you that. Okay, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I got this documentary coming out.
Sure.
It really put it, what went on. Okay?
But the thing, it's that the fact that they ignored you on it, or that judge ignored you on it when you, I feel a lot of people would be here today if they just listened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they had to just put the dots together.
Yeah.
That's what they had. You know what I mean? And they just see what happened over there is they did not want me to be a credible person, because if I was credible, I already had given information about this DeVecchio, that this DeVecchio is bad.
Okay.
All right? That's their own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So now, because of that, they didn't want me to be a credible person, and they just made everything I told them a scam.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get what I told them, you would not believe.
I look forward to watching that documentary when it comes out.
Yeah. I actually told them how they build the bomb on the plane, going through the metal detectors, and how they build the bomb on the plane. Just like that, what's his name? That shoe bomber. Shoe bomber, I forgot his name.
Was it the Unabomber?
But anyway, yeah. Not the Unabomber, the shoe bomber. He went on the plane, and the shoe was going to blow up. But
I think now it's kind of, now I remember that one.
I forgot his. Yeah. But like I said, the information that I gave them was amazing. Okay, and then I'm going to tell you something. I gave them information of 4 bombers, terrorists in New York City. Okay, before any of that stuff happened, and worked it out that I gave them enough information that they could get pinched.
Yep.
So we sat down, discussed it. A lawyer was there, and they said, no, they're not going to pinch it. My lawyer says, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean you're not going to pinch them?
Right.
He said, we're not going to pinch them. We're not going to give these guys passports, money, and then we're going to lose them. And they walk in the front of a hotel, walk out the back. My lawyer said, you're the FBI. He said, what are you talking about?
Right.
Over here are 4 terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI told them, my lawyer, just like this, shut the fuck up and mind your business. Yeah. I couldn't believe it myself. I says, wow, so then, like I said, the documentary is going to get into everything, and it's be a good doc. I could try and make a doc series out of it, because we're going to talk about the mob, my father,
yeah,
me being, go right up to everything in this documentary.
When it comes to the bombers, I interviewed, the second guy I ever interviewed was ATF agent Jay Dobbins. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He infiltrated the Hells Angels back in 2001. But one of his first cases was the Oklahoma City bombing, with the ATF.
No, I don't know him, but you said something. It was about a certain bomb.
Oh, he worked the Oklahoma City bombing case.
Okay.
There was, I guess McVeigh and Terry Nichols there was like a militant group that they were part of that were planning on blowing up Las Vegas casinos. And I think it's important because another one of the bombers, you don't have to go too far into it, but if it wasn't for you, the feds wouldn't they kind of got caught with their pants down, but they wouldn't have found the weapons cache that Terry Nichols was hiding. And
oh yeah.
So when you think about it, think about how many lives that you potentially saved with that information. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, that's probably why I finally got some credit for that.
Yeah.
Took me a long time because they tried to say that was a scam too. Okay.
It's
how could? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what they tried. That's what they tried. They tried to say somebody else got it. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
First, they wouldn't even go to where I said. See what I did? I learned from the first time with the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
I learned from that with their doing. So this time, I made sure that I got a paper trail right to Congress. Okay, so. That's what we did. We made a paper trail and went. First, what they told me, the people that were involved making the paper trail for me, told me that they can they have connections to the military.
Yeah.
If it would be all right, military, because they were afraid of the FBI playing the game again. So if they go to the military, what would we tell them that you would want? I said, I just want a letter to the judge that I did the right thing.
Sure.
And I found all the stuff. So they said, oh, that would be no problem. So anyway, they get a hold of the military. Okay. The military now goes to where I said, okay. They surround the place and they got their machines to see if there's explosives there or what. I get a call from the person that also went there to just watch the scene. Okay. And I called that number that she told me to call at a certain time. She goes, Greg, she says, you did it this time. I said, what do you mean? She said, I just got word right now. She said, their needles got buried. That stuff is there. I said, oh, I told you it was there. So she says, okay. She said, well, that's good. What happens is they were taking long to go in. They were just sitting on it because they were figuring because it was near a holiday or near the time of the Waco thing.
Yep.
The date of the Waco.
Yep.
It was near that date, and they were feeling that maybe those guys would have whatever go over and get the stuff, and they would make they would pinch them.
Yep.
So what happened was they were taking too long, and my people was getting nervous now. And called up Congress to tell them what's going on, the connection with the paper trail, okay? Now, Congress hears this. Man, was I sick over this. You know what they did? They called the FBI.
Oh, no.
Okay. So they called the FBI, and they say, listen, go. They said, no, this is with the Gregory Scarpa Jr. So they says, yeah, go there now and see. Check that address out and see what it's all about. They said, no, we're telling you, this guy's a bullshit artist. They said, listen, we're telling you to go there. We know for a fact there, Okay, so we want you to go there. So they went there. The military's there. They chased the military. They said, "Listen, it's our jurisdiction. You got to go."
Your bureaucratic bullshit. Like they gotta, somebody's got to win, and that's even with that guy Jay. Like when he did the infiltration operation on the ATF, or when they for the Hell's Angels, like the ATF burned him afterwards. The
Yeah,
Hell's Angels had put out like a contract. They outsourced it to everybody. They dropped the case completely fell apart because the prosecution and then the powers that be couldn't agree on the case, and then they burnt his house down. So that's all it boils down to is arrests and who's going to get the glory for it, and they don't really give a shit about everybody else. If to be frank
yeah,
about it, you know what I mean.
yeah.
So, and it's like, even when you think, when you look at it, the dirty game that was played with the feds, with your father, and that stuff, like, what is the blowback? What does that do to you? Because, like, what's the mob's reaction to, like, all this stuff?
Well, with my father being top echelon.
Yeah, like, because obviously it was a shock to you. Like, how does that affect you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was in prison,
Yep.
and it was coming out. Some people were saying, "Wow." Then one person would say, "I got to be honest with you, Greg. With this fire," I said, "Forget about it." You know what I mean? But then proof started coming out with the 302s and stuff like that, and so that wasn't good, But see, I've been in prison so long. I made my. They knew me in prison. You know what I'm saying? And nobody would fuck with me over there in prison. Forget about it.
Yeah.
I was still young at the time, and with that, it got bad to extent like what's his name? Vic Amuso. He's the boss of the Lucchese family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he stopped like shunning me and stuff. I tried to talk to him. I said, Vic, stop it.
Yeah.
Number one, I says, when we were out, we were ranked the same outside.
Yeah.
Okay, I went into prison well before you. Okay, and then you became a boss. Now you're going to come in here and shun me and make me look, something wrong with me. Now I hear that he's telling other people, him and his father were so close. He said, I know personally, there was no closer than them two, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Father was like one person.
Yep.
All right, except for that. And then I tried to talk to him about it, this, that, and everything, and it just didn't happen. He just kept on. And then he was telling other people shit, and I said, all right, I got to do what I got to do with this guy. I'm going to try him. So what I do is, he had a lot of guys there, Joe Tester, and a lot of the Casey guys there. But they were friends of mine. We used to play handball and everything like that.
Sure.
And I said, Joe, why don't you get the guys and go play some, do your job at night instead of in the morning. This way here, I'm alone up here with Vic.
Yep.
I says, I could, because if I talk to him in front of you guys, you know what he's going to do, put a show on, start yelling and all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? But this way here, I'm by myself with him, maybe I could talk to him. So Joey said, yeah, Greg, do that. So they all left, and I went to Vic's cell. I had a kid with me to tell all the kids that were hanging out up there, a lot of black kids that Vic was liked, and they were dealing with each other, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I told the kid to tell them, I said, listen, whatever happens, if you hear anything, this is mob business, just to walk away if anything.
Yeah.
Because this might turn out bad, okay? And sure enough, when I went in there, I said, hey, Vic, I want to talk to you. He said, we don't have to talk. I said, yeah, we have to talk, okay? I said, over here, I says, how would you like me saying to everybody, your main partner gas pipe, Casso,
Mm-hmm.
that you knew he was going to do what he did.
Right.
He got so mad he grabbed a ceramic bowl and he hit me on. He tried to hit me. I blocked it, and part of it hit me on the head, and it was on.
Yep.
I broke his whole bad, real bad. Okay, I mean, matter of fact, it was so bad. I mean, there was blood all over his cell and the walls, everything. And what I did was I had him against the thing. I was choking him, and I said, "All right, listen, Vic, I'm gonna walk out of here. Okay, let's end this now. Here, let's clean up and forget about it. Okay." And he just shook his head. Yes. As I start walking out, he got up.
What the hell?
I give that, I got ball in here, but that's we'll just ignore it. Anyway, so now we start again. I grabbed him again. This time, now I got him by the throat.
Yep.
Really good. Okay, I got him in the corner, and I'm squeezing so hard. I see him starting to fade away a little. So I told him, I says, Vic, I'm going to get up one more time. I'm going to tell you right now, don't make a move when I get up here, because if you do, I'm going to kill you. Okay? Stay there. He listened.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what happened. I got out of there, and then we ended up. They locked all the Italians down in the joint. Some guy that made believe he was there said that they locked down the whole BOP, and he made a whole story. He made a whole story about the fight, everything. I forgot his name. He was on some podcast. He told a story that was unreal. And all the Italians in every joint got locked up. People are nuts. They go on these podcasts, some of them. You know what I mean?
I'm learning that as I go. Like, there's a lot of them, because you got to vet them out. I mean, there's certain guys that are easy, like yourself. Like, I've become good friends with him, Anthony Arlotta, up in Springfield, Mass, who's selling Pazzo wine. I told, like, I got you, bud. But then there's other ones that come out with these stories, and like, you're not going to do the research. And this guy told me when he got made, they brought him to he had a celebration at a heavy metal club, and I was like, what? Like, I was like, there's no way. I was like, all right, I'll look into it at least. And I asked another guy. He was like, listen, nobody brought an 80-year-old boss to a heavy metal anything. Right. Like, he's like, that would get you fucking killed. Like, you serious? Like,
I'm telling you, you get some real crazies that come in and make up stories. They make up stories to make themselves, look good or look big or whatever. And they get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? So, with that, that happened, and I ended up getting indicted. After, not for that, I got indicted for my next case.
Yep.
And so I went from there into New York MCC, and that's where I met Ramsey Youssef over there.
Mm-hmm. Did they keep you in like how many, like, did they move you around the country to different prisons, like, or did you spend a bulk of your time like in like one spot?
After the second conviction?
Yeah.
Yeah, after the second conviction, what they did was they sent me to the Supermax, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent most of my time there, believe it or not. That's supposed to be an 18-month or a 3-year program. That's what I was told, that they were sending me there. Can't do more than 3 years. It took me 12 years to get out of there.
Jesus Christ.
12 years in Supermax in Colorado. In the underground, in the mountains.
How do you, like, I think the most curious thing is, like, how do you hold it together mentally? With, like, I mean, this isn't like, 2 years and you're out. Like, I mean, it's a lifetime, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, how do you hold it together without, like, losing your cool in there and,
Yeah, well, you got to just, play, you got to work out,
mm-hmm.
get that frustration out of you. You got to play ball what you like, keep doing that, and try and write letters to your family and make many calls as you can. But in the Supermax, you got 13 minutes a month on the phone. That was it.
Holy shit.
In the Supermax was, I said, wow. And I just couldn't get out of there.
Yeah.
And what I did was I just worked out in the room, and that's it. And I had one good thing, I had a shower in the room. Mm-hmm. So I would have worked out, I'm telling you, throughout the day. I mean, I became a monster in there. Like crazy,
I've seen some pictures. Like, you were pretty big.
Yeah, I was doing, even the stand-up, I was doing like 1,000 push-ups with 500 burpees.
Holy shit.
You know what burpees are?
Yeah.
Yeah, squat thrusts, yeah. So, I was in some shape, you know what I mean?
When I was training for the Marines, like, there was a friend of mine who was in the Army that was training me a little bit, trying to get me into shape, and we were doing burpees and stuff like that. After my first, it's like by my second day, I think I collapsed and threw up on myself. Like, it was embarrassing.
Okay.
It was rough, and then he would have me basically run up steep hills and then kind of walk down and then do a couple burpees at the end, and it was like. Yeah. I couldn't feel any part of my body for like a week.
Yeah, yourself up to, because when I started the burpees, I said, "Wow, I couldn't do 25." Wow, that's some exercise.
Yep.
And I just built it up, just kept going. And when I say 1,000 push-ups, what I'm talking about is I would pump burpee, pump twice, 2 push. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So 500 burpees. Times the 2 there's 1,000 push-ups with it. You know what I'm saying?
So what was it like? What was it like for you? Because you got ended up getting compassionate release during in 2020. What was it like stepping out into the world after all this time?
Well, I just couldn't believe it. It was just a crazy situation. Like the way things worked out was that the judge kept on saying to the prosecution to give this guy something for the Oklahoma City thing. Mm-hmm. No, we're not going to give him nothing. He said, but it would stop all this legal papers and this and the legal motions. And
yep.
Said, no, we're not even going to. He said, why don't you give him 3 years? He's got until 2035. Give him 3 years.
Yeah.
Off. They said, we're not even going to entertain it to the judge. So the judge said, okay. So he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him 10 years off right now. So they went from 2035 to 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was big for me because I said to myself, well, 2025. You know what I'm saying? And with that, they appealed. And unbelievable, the higher court went with the prosecution, and they gave me back that 10 that the judge gave me.
What the?
So now I'm back to 2035. The judge had to be really pissed that they appealed him and made him look, So now they came out with it was bad for everybody. Turns out good for me. COVID-19. Was it COVID-19?
Yeah, the pandemic started right in February is when it hit us.
Right. So that COVID thing, it was so bad that now they come out with in the penitentiaries and jail that, listen, if you your immune system is down or you're sick like this or like that, you could apply for a compassionate release.
Mm-hmm.
I says, wow. So that's what I did. All right. It went to the same judge who they
yeah.
And as soon as he got my thing, he didn't take long at all. He says, I want this guy, it was Thursday. He said, I want this guy out by Monday.
Wow.
So now what I do is I hear from my lawyer, right? Before I get locked in, right? I end up calling my lawyer. Well, it was a 3-way. Somebody called my lawyer,
Yep.
and get me on the phone. And I said, Georgia? She says, yeah, Greg. She says, I want you to know that you're being released. Well, let me tell you something. I said, I'm what, Georgia? She says, you're getting released by Monday. Well, I tell you the truth, I don't know how I was able to stand up. You know what I'm saying? It was like, wow. You know,
I would imagine.
Yeah. So with that, when Friday came, the prison came over and said, listen, we want you out of here now. I said, well, I got nobody to pick me up right now.
Yeah.
Now, the long story short, I'm fighting to stay in until I get somebody to come and get me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So fighting all these years to get out, now I'm fighting to stay in. I said, I can't go out now. So, what about worked out that I was able to get out Saturday, okay? And on my way out, I didn't think those gates were going to open. I didn't think that.
That's gotta had to be a biblical moment. You know what I mean? Just
it was really, really something. I said, wow. Yeah, it was crazy.
And now, did you ever think, after all this time, like you come out and you got mob guys on podcasts, you got, the world is upside down. Like,
oh, listen, hey, don't forget, when I went away, they didn't even have cell phones.
That's fair. So
you know
you went in '88 is when you got picked up, wasn't it?
Well, '87, yeah, I went on the lam. '88 is when they got me. Yeah.
So I was 2 years old.
There you go.
Like when that happened, and so I can't even imagine. I remember how things changed in my lifetime. So it's almost like does the world just stop and then all of a sudden you come out and you got.
I'm still that way. This technology stuff, I just can't. I'm like my girl here. She does everything for me. You know what I mean? I get help. Her name is Maria. She's a doll.
Yeah.
She takes to do everything. She'll take off from work, help me out, whatever I need with she takes me to the doctors, everything with the computer, she's right on it. So I get all the help I need from her.
And I wanted to ask, like, how you feeling? Like, you doing good?
Maybe she's making me lazy that I don't want to learn. I don't know.
But I wanted to ask, like, how you feeling? You kicking this thing's ass or what?
Yeah, well, what happened was, I got it 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's what got me out. Okay, I was actually on my deathbed. They had an 8-hour surgery on the neck, 5 hours on the throat.
Yep.
And I ended up beating it so bad that I had a checkup after 7 years out here in Florida.
Yep.
And the doctor told me, he says, listen, he says, you're, what do you say? What was the word? You're cured.
Okay.
He says, you're cured.
Yep.
Wow. So he says, you could get cancer somewhere else. He says, but not in that spot. I said, okay. So now what happened was they just, after 10 years, they found a little something right now that I'm getting injections for once a month. And it's keeping it at bay. I don't feel sick at all. I work out. I run. I do everything. There's nothing wrong. I asked him, I said, well, why don't we just cut it out? He said, why do we got to cut your body up? We said, now that we got this medication, that we could just give you an injection and it'll stay the same.
Yeah.
He said, we'll do a CAT scan in a couple months. So I'm due for a CAT scan in about 3 months. And make sure we just had one, came back. Nothing happened. Same way. So we're going to continue that and see what happens,
Oh, I mean, I'm glad you feel like you're still out here kicking ass. You're doing, you're feeling better. You're working. You're living life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm in
Where are you
Connecticut.
at? Oh, okay.
So, it's I'm trying to move down to Florida. That's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Well, we're worrying about with all this heat out here right now that they're starting to talk about hurricane again. So, oh boy, not again.
Yeah, I,
But to me, Florida's the spot. I love it. I tell you the truth.
it's crazy. Like my wife, she's originally from Vermont, so we took the kids to Disney World back like 2 years ago. That was the farthest south up until that point she had ever been was Connecticut, which is sad. So it was a she wants to move there now.
Oh, okay.
But the one person in this I really want to give a shout out to is Kathy Collins. She, like, I've worked with her a couple of times. She helped me with John A. Light.
Okay.
I want to make sure she gets that recognition.
Are we talking about Katie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. The name that you just said. Oh yeah, she's wonderful. She's something else. She's got a lot of class. I never met her personally, but talking with her, class, a real good person.
She
I
is.
shout out to her too.
And
Yeah.
Kat, thank you for setting this up with me and Greg. And Greg, it's been an honor to have you here with me. Like, and I really hope if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know.
Thank you.
And I don't know if anybody said it to you yet, but I mean, think you should get the recognition. You saved a lot of people's lives with the
Thank you.
coming forward, and you really need to be told that.
Yeah. Yeah. That put a little heat on me from the haters.
Yeah.
I'd do it again tomorrow. You talk about hurting innocent people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
I'd do it again.
And there's my buddy. For me, the Anthony Arlotta, he was my number one on the show. He's helped me with so much stuff. Joe over at Tack Tribe 2.0 over on Instagram. I appreciate both of you. I love both of you. Anybody in this world that's struggling though with addiction, I really want to give the shout outs to Black Poster Project that Johnny A. Light got us turned on to. Hardcore Recovery with that Jason Vukovic, the Alaskan Avenger, got us set up with. And Wolcott Crossroads in my area. If you need help, let's talk. DM me direct, and I can get you with the right people.
Right.
This man, like, I'm so honored to have Greg with me because I mean the name Scarpa carries so much weight, and
Thank you.
And I'm glad you're on the side of the fence enjoying life. Like, what's been the most happiest thing for you, or the most profound thing since you've been out?
Is meeting my girl that I got right now, Maria.
There you go.
Yeah, she's making my life wonderful.
If you,
Yeah,
yeah, man.
she's just that's the way it is.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. Like, I mean, I'm happy for you, buddy. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be down in Florida probably by the end of the year. If you want to get together for dinner, I'd love to take you out.
Sounds good. Well, sounds good. Yeah, get in touch. I've been real busy, because I'm working. I get home late and stuff like that. But I'm sure we can work something out.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, because you're a Hollywood guy now, so and you know what's crazy is this is gonna air on June 4th. So,
Okay.
But just a minute before you got in the thing, Mark Wahlberg posted you and him online. So,
What do you mean he posted me and him online?
on his Instagram, he has there's a little video of you and him.
Okay.
From on the set. So I was like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you something. Mark Wahlberg is one of a kind, bro.
that's what I've heard.
Listen to me, bro. He is one of a kind. He ain't one with a big head. He's like a regular guy. Like, he's amazing. He really is. He took pictures with my family. Like incognito and straight up. You know what I mean? I mean, he just put the time into all that stuff. You know, I mean, really, really good. This is his. You see the hat?
There it is.
Yeah, that's he's got a company this here, and he's so generous. I mean, you know, I mean, forget it. He gave more hats, clothes to me, my family. You know, guys, just fantastic.
You know what? We'll make sure we're gonna link. We're gonna add that to the links down below, so you know, show Mark Wahlberg that love, because I've always heard that. You know, he's probably one of the realest people in Hollywood. And if you like that Mark Wahlberg shirt, you could head over. My own merchandise is coming out. This is made by GMI Clothing Line in Wolcott, Connecticut. We'll have to get Greg one of these shirts as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been a real blessing to have you here. You know, and we'll be in touch. We'll keep in touch, and yeah, and you know, like I say on all the episodes, except for the last one because I forgot to say it, was the path in life is completely undetermined. It's really what you make it. So, with that being said,
one more thing before I go.
Sure.
Okay? The kids out there, stay away from that life. Believe me, it's not good.
All right, you heard it.
All right, my man.
Take it easy, my friend.
All right, man.
All right, bro. Bye.